All right, as long as you can hear us, we'll move. We'll go. So anyway, so 6 o'clock. So we'll start this meeting at Select Board. I don't even know what the day is. October. It's right here, 16th on the agenda. I don't think there's one addition down in new business. We have permits requested for the covered bridge, which will add to new business. And we're going to move up the discussion about the rec board to the public comment section so that they can head out. So first thing to do is review and approve the previous minutes. I think we'll do them separately. October 2nd was the full select board meeting. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept minutes from the select board meeting.
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving the select board meeting minutes of October 2nd, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? And then the budget work session meeting of October 9th.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes of the
All right. And I'll second.
agenda.
Any discussion? All right. So all those in favor say aye.
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 All those against?
I abstain.
And abstention is 1 for Paul, or not Paul, Tom, who's not here. All right. So we have 3 warrants to approve. Warrant 8, 8P, and CC Conservation Commission number 4.
I'll make a motion that we approve payment of warrants 8, 8P, and Conservation Commission number 4.
I'll second it.
All right. 8, Conservation Commission number 1, 4. I wrote it down wrong because it's labeled wrong. Is $100. It's $50 for each of 2 events that the Grange allowed the Conservation Commission to use. Warrant 8P is payroll. It's about $11,600, so pretty standard. Warrant 8 is general expenses. It's almost $135K. The biggest drivers in there. There's $55,000 in there. That's half of the restricted capital fund money. There's $3,800 for Rescue Inc. There's $52,000 as our debt service for the gravel pit, and there's $14K, which is half of the Windham County taxes that we forward to them. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving warrant 8, 8P, and CC4 say aye.
Aye.
All those against? ARPA funding. Nothing new.
No, other than Lee let us know that the $4,000 that we had allocated to the chimney repair was not needed, so that will go back in. So we have an additional $4,000 that we have to allocate.
All right, we have to do it pretty soon.
Yes, before the end of the year.
All right.
Mhm.
Some recognition of visitors and public comment. We have 1 visitor. Anything that you want to bring up that's not on the agenda?
Not at all. Thank
right.
you.
And we're moving up the rec board volunteer fingerprinting school district background check policy. So, Maeve, do you have any questions right off the bat before we kind of talk about it a little bit?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Sorry, my AirPod microphone doesn't work, but I listen best with it on because my daughter is watching a cartoon, so I apologize. I don't have any specific questions. I'm here to collect information. I am just, as a community member and like the straggling strand of connection of the rec board that is now coming back to life, and I feel like a quilt that has been remade, and I'm so excited for our town. But we now have all these members, and we're having some really great conversations about what moving forward looks like, and all best practices that we want to put in place. And so that just prompted a really important conversation about what it looks like, what the expectation is for volunteers, of coaches, and the people that we're entrusting to spend time with our community. And so that prompted the conversation of, let's start with the select board and see what their expectations are, and go from there. So that's all we're looking for, is some guidance.
All right. So I'll open a little bit and other people may talk. So we did some research and we talked about it last meeting. So the Wyndham Southeast School District has code Delta 7, which deals with volunteers and work study students. So the work study students probably irrelevant in this situation. But what this document talks about is 3 pages, and a lot of it applies, not all of it applies. But basically it talks about what the principal is going to do, what the schools will do for background checks for anybody who's going to be unattended with students or children. And there's a couple levels of background check. And we can forward this to you. I think it's a good starting point where you can pick pieces out of it that apply to you, but essentially mirror what they're doing for volunteers. It involves a level 2 background check and usually fingerprinting, which Paul Adler found out is about $35.
It is $35
through the sheriff. So the two things would be the background check, we believe, and the fingerprinting would be a good starting point. And then there's some clarification on supervision of whether they can be alone with the children or not. I mean, for instance, the school says generally volunteers and work study students who work directly with students will be under the immediate supervision of a licensed professional employee and will not have unsupervised contact with students, which is a little different than what it says up above about background checks.
Unless, sorry, if I can interrupt.
Yeah, oh yeah, please do.
Okay, so hi Maeve, it's Deborah. Unless that volunteer can be alone with students if that volunteer has registered to be fingerprinted and is waiting for the appointment. And as long as, for my environment, as long as the school district knows that there is an appointment
Right.
in effect, that individual can now be alone. Otherwise, that individual can only work with students if in the presence of a fully vetted school district employee.
And the background check was what, $11.87, I believe.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
The school district picks that cost up. Well,
this
the
is-
school
this
district
is the
actually,
state that does it.
oh, I see. Well, the school district picks up both costs,
Okay.
Right.
both the fingerprinting so no volunteer ever has to pay the $35
So-
from our perspective.
So for the rec board, which is town, not school, you guys aren't going to pick up that.
I should say not.
I
I
just want to make sure
I just-
because you said the school
generous offer
because you
going
said the
on there.
school picks up. I'm like, all right. So,
well, that was a good try. Thank you.
yeah,
Well,
It was worth a shot.
that policy seems strange to me for the interim, where if someone has an appointment, well, that's great. But what if it's a person who shouldn't be there and they have an appointment, but I don't know, if there's a 2-week period.
and they know there's a lag. Right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it seems like an opening.
For a problem.
Yeah, let's say you have a person with
Well-
a problem who volunteers and says, oh, I have an appointment in 2 weeks. I'm going to be with a child alone now. Doesn't really help if they have an appointment in 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't.
So what do
The
we do?
problem occurred when school districts were faced with a 2 and a 3 month time lag
Yeah.
for the actual appointment.
Yeah.
So now what do? Certainly the outlying schools like Dummerston, what do when they need a volunteer to take a kid to an off-site
Right.
school event? So
That's what I figured. It was
that was the
about
compromise.
Yeah.
That was the compromise.
okay. And the document also covers transfer. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Maeve.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to the conversation about, it was, I think the fact that it was, just a good step forward that we were requiring fingerprinting from volunteers to begin with. That's how I ended up driving for every school field trip or winter sports program, because I'm like, I don't know who's with my kids. I'm going to be there. So I think that that's huge. And I wonder if there's a way that we could communicate with the school district that's already, like, I think a lot of our parents have already done the fingerprinting through the school district. And if we could have that verification from them, and then we wouldn't necessarily as the town need to also require fingerprinting and background checks. So I wonder if we could if we are leaning towards having some type of requirement of that, if it's already been done through the school district, we can waive the requirement type thing. So I just wanted to put that piece out there.
I won't speak for the school district. So, but the summary of what you're saying is if you have somebody who volunteers to be a coach, who has already gone through the D7 fingerprinting with the school, can you just piggyback on that? And all you're dealing with are new people who have not yet been vetted.
Correct.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be okay.
I as everybody looks at me right now, that seems more than reasonable. Why would you have a duplication of effort
Sure.
in terms of something like this? Also something that's relatively costly.
Right.
Right.
So should we forward this and the email that, you know, the information that Paul got to the rec board, Maeve and Margaret and Jedediah,
Yep.
so that then they as a rec board should write their own policy?
That's what I would do. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll send it out to you guys and you guys can clean it up and bring it back to us.
Yeah.
Right,
And we'll talk about it more and go, yeah, we're good with that.
right.
I think the only thing, since the school leads on this a little bit, because you guys have done it, it's in place. I think the only thing I would say is that I wouldn't want your policy to be less restrictive than the schools. So when you're writing it, whatever their guidance is in Delta 7, if you want to be more restrictive, you're more than welcome to. But I wouldn't write it to be less restrictive. So use that as a baseline.
And
Okay.
a good thing to get would be to get a rough. I know it's hard to estimate how many of these people you'd have to do. Figure out how many people you might have to run through this in a year, and we can put it aside in the budget to make sure about $50 per person is allocated.
Yeah.
And so it can just be there, and that side of it can be taken care of.
Yeah, you can come back with a request. You know, if you think there's 10 people or 12 a year, come back with a budget request because we're doing budgets now, and we'll look at it and make decisions. We normally don't budget any money to the rec board,
We don't?
but at least not. Listen to me normally. I've been through one budget cycle.
Well, I think that's it was just Margaret and I on the board, and we were doing very minimal, and so we were therefore requesting very minimal, which is 0. So I think we do plan to have a budget going forward as we get organized and we really look at the costs of things, and we can work that into our budget. I also think that it would be valuable to have those on the rec board that haven't gone through the process with the school district to possibly require that they should. And I say that because I've had situations where I'm the rec board person at a basketball practice or whatever it may be, and there's one straggler kid left, and I tell the coach, go ahead, because I know that I'm the one closing up the school. And so if that tends to be a scenario that we come in common with, I think it would be safest to also have our rec members fall under that qualified to be left alone criteria.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, especially if one of you is going to be overseeing the facility and will be the last person there.
All right.
And the point of contact at the school district is Mo Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So what I'll do is Maeve or Jedediah, either one, if you can just email the selectboard@dummerston.org with your 2 email addresses. Okay, disregard, don't do that. Maria has them. She will forward you the documents and the sheriff stuff. And we'll put it on the agenda again in a couple of weeks
Yes.
if you're ready, and we'll talk about it and vote on it and sign it
A
if
little
needed.
easier than on the computer.
Great. We meet next Tuesday, and I think it's on our agenda, but I will confirm that. And regardless, we'll have a conversation about it and hopefully have it back to you for your next meeting.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, thanks for everything you guys do.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Take care.
Questions?
So there's no other new business or public comment. No update on the road foreman's report. Obviously, we had Lee here last week. Correspondence for information. I'm trying to think what's in here of importance that I've noted. Same stuff as normal. Yeah, any questions anybody has on any of those things?
No.
All right, correspondence for discussion or action. First one is camper at the covered bridge, which was taken care of. It was not abandoned, according to the state police. There was a note on
Yeah,
it,
that was a no.
and it disappeared that day that she happened to look at it. Rec board volunteers were recovered. So new business, Salmon Brook Erosion. I have not heard anything from the state. They came and did an archaeological survey 2 weeks ago. I will contact Mike at Vermont and see if there's any update. And the landowners know what's going on also. So, all right. So got requests for 2 permits for the covered bridge to do sales this weekend, the 19th and the 20th, for flowers and sewn items. Does anyone have opinions on this?
Sounds nice.
We've done it in the past.
Yeah.
Is there a town tax on that?
The
No, there's a
permit,
fee
Oh,
for the
sales.
permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how much, it was 25? That was fairly low.
It's 25 or 35.
Yeah, something like that.
I had the email open. It's not a lot.
No, it's not.
I know we talked about the first time I experienced it was the lemonade stand probably a month ago,
Yes.
2 months ago, and I got this one because after the first one I'm like, oh yeah, sure, it's fine. But then it's like, I don't know what the parameters are, how often we want to do this, right? I mean, it's not generally a setup for business, so I may change my mind at some point. I don't have any problem with it now,
No.
but if all of a sudden it becomes every weekend,
Mhm.
50 people are setting up stands, we'll probably ratchet it down a little bit. But 1s and 2s I'm kind of fine with. So
Is it good to just be in the parking lot? They're going to set something up.
Yeah.
yeah, they're just gonna be in the parking lot.
I think both of these women have done it in the past.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's Columbus Day weekend when they've done it.
Right.
So this is
Which would have been one good day and one awful day this
Yeah.
last weekend.
Yeah.
All right. So does anyone want to make a motion?
move the-
I'll make a motion that we approve the vendor license requests from Diane Holden and Shirley Landfear to use the covered bridge parking lot on October 19th and 20th.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion on it? All right. All those in favor of approving the permits for the 19th and 20th of October at the covered bridge, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all those against? I'll leave a note for Lori or email her and let her know that they're approved. There's no unfinished business.
Well, I'd like to bring up a
Oh.
little something under new business.
New business, bring it up.
Okay, basically, during the Apple Pie Festival, I had several residents that are still complaining heavily about the traffic and the speed of people driving down the road and running red lights. I got in touch with Mark and told him, that what the problem is, and I also know that he's got a, cruiser that just sits in his parking lot all the time. It's an old Crown Vic. Is there any reason why you can't drive it around town and leave it in spots with nobody in it? I shouldn't probably be saying this.
Nobody's listening.
He's going to be having a staff meeting tomorrow, and they're going to see what they can come up with.
I'd be interested to know. I have zero doubt that every single town in Wyndham County is saying the same thing, right? I mean, there's not a town that's going, no, our traffic's fine. Everybody's not speeding and respecting the laws, whatever. So I'd be curious to know from him what solutions he's come up with in other places, in Putney or Westminster West or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because it is a bit of a.
I know he's equipping more cars with radar now,
Yeah. So.
which is going to be helpful.
Yeah, it'd definitely be helpful. But there is only, this is almost an unsolvable problem, right? Unless you want to put traffic calming on Middle Road, like humps every
Sleeping
mile.
policemen, just get the ones that are removable.
Right. But
for
then
winter.
people driving Middle Road are going to be upset because there's bumps on the road. And there's a million possible options.
Mhm.
I think all of them could be on the table. But as you continue to work with the sheriff and we continue to get these complaints, at some point everybody's gonna have to show up and recommend what they want or what they think would be a solution to this, right?
Yeah.
I understand it's a problem. I live on Middle Road and I hear them all the time. So it's understandable, but we may have to have a little get together on an agenda in the near future talk about speeding in town, and so people will show up and
Right.
and you come up with suggestions or what they want to do. Because I think everybody's going to have a little different
Mm-hmm.
opinion. It's tough nut to crack, but I understand. So we'll note that. So yeah, next meeting, if the sheriff comes back,
What's that?
see what he has to say,
Yeah.
and we'll add it as correspondence for discussion.
Okay.
You know,
There's not a fake Crown Victoria, for the record. Go ahead.
personally, you know, the signs that pop up and say your speed is this,
Mhm.
that's the best thing for me if I'm going too fast.
Right.
That reminds me. I don't know if those are expensive or if they're negatives, but
Right.
those are the most effective for me if I'm driving too fast.
I'd be curious to know from the sheriff. I mean, there's got to be data on this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your speed is whatever. Do those work? Are they seeing reductions or not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little hard if it says you're going 45 and the speed limit's 35 for you to just go, I don't care. But we'll
Or
see.
even speed cameras. In
Well.
some states you go too fast, all you do is get a ticket in the mail.
Well, I'm aware of that. So, and some non-states like the District of Columbia.
It would certainly help our revenue.
Right. So, all right, that's good. Thanks for bringing that up. Anything else in new business or unfinished that anybody wants to talk about? All right, so budget work session next Wednesday. We're going to bring the fire department and no one else. That'll probably take us
Most of the evening.
An hour and a half.
Probably another one.
to discuss with them. And then we'll work on the library and social services later in the month. I think they'll come and talk about their budgets. I don't think we got anything else.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
And so it is.